Steve Adubato. He's got a few books out, and I love the title of this one, What Were They Thinking? Crisis Communication, the Good, the Bad, and the Totally Clueless. So welcome to the show, Dr. Adubato.
You can call me Steve. Good to talk to you, Steve and Bill.
Okay. Well, Steve, was it the good, the bad, or the totally clueless when it came to Bridget Kelly, who lost her job yesterday?
Well, all three, but it had to be done, and it was done within 24 hours. But it's just the beginning. I mean, this is a complicated situation, and it should never have come to this. And Bridget Kelly was the deputy chief of staff to Governor Christie. But you also have to realize someone else has been let go. And that person may not be a big name out in the West in your area, but his name is Bill Stepien. Bill Stepien was Chris Christie's campaign manager in this historic win where a Republican governor, Chris Christie, won over 60% of the vote in a Democratic state here in New Jersey. Bill Stepien was Chris Christie's top campaign advisor in this race. Christie named him to be the chairman of the Republican State Committee recently here. He named him to be his point person, a consultant with the Republican National Governors Association. Bill Stepien was told to step aside yesterday in that press conference because Stepien's name was in those emails saying really horrific things and insensitive things and really demonstrating a callousness, as the governor said, to the people of that community, Fort Lee, New Jersey, by the George Washington Bridge, and communicating back and forth with some of the folks who actually shut down the bridge. So the bottom line is the governor stepped up. He took responsibility. Mm-hmm. He acted quickly. And, look, is he out of this? Not even close. But he did act. He did acknowledge responsibility. He took the first step in a crisis, which a lot of people do not do, and they don't get out of it. But he's got a long way to go. His brand clearly has been affected negatively, but he has the potential to turn this thing around.
So this Bill Stepien, back to him for just a quick second here. He was basically the Rahm Emanuel to President Obama, or the David Axelrod. Are any of these, the Kelly or Stepien, are they going to come back on Christie, do you think? Or are they going to squeal, or is that where it ends, do you think? I
mean, look, here's the interesting thing. Like, what do you squeal about? I mean, if you asked me, and I've interacted with the governor, and I've gone back and forth as to whether I would say this or not publicly, and I've decided recently that I would. I have spoken to the governor since this has happened, and I have no problem saying that because, it's true, and I feel like I should disclose that. But I've also made it clear that I disagree with certain aspects of how this was handled. I felt that the governor should have jumped in sooner and expressed concern about this situation.
Well, he said he just learned about it yesterday. Or day before yesterday.
No. He learned about the lying yesterday. He knew that the lanes had been closed down at the George Washington Bridge. He knew that his top two appointees at the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey, which manages the George Washington Bridge, had resigned. I felt strongly that he needed to find out, well, why did you resign, and get more involved. But the point is this. The governor did step up. Listen, I've known the governor a long time. As a PBS broadcaster, I've interviewed him many, many times. He's been in my face and angry at me because I've been aggressive in my questioning, but I respect him tremendously. He is a strong leader who gets things done. But I'll say this. There's nothing for those people to say about Chris Christie if, in fact, Chris Christie is telling the truth. And I believe him.
Right.
I believe the governor was lied to. But if that's not true,
but we just saw it recently, and now next week comes out the book Duty with Robert Gates, former defense secretary. Of course, now he is, we won't say squealing, but it's more of a tell-all, behind the scenes. Do you think that the Bridget Kellys or the Bill Stepien's going to have some deeper background about Chris Christie going forward?
Look, there are criminal issues, there are legal issues, and that's the first part of this. Those people are going to have to get lawyers quickly because they're going to be called to testify, subpoena under oath. I don't know if they're going to take the fifth, as David Wildstein did, the first person who was called to testify yesterday before the state legislature. That's the first part. Writing the tell-all book, that's another question because they're going to have legal bills. But I will say this. If Chris Christie's telling the truth and he did not know about this and those people lied to him, that doesn't mean he's scot-free, and it doesn't mean that he didn't do anything wrong. It means that he got screwed by his staff. But he appointed those people, and he has to take responsibility for that, and he did yesterday. And here's what I'm saying. Compared to perfection, he's flawed. Compared to a lot of other elected officials who put people in positions who do screwed up things or may have created a culture where that made them think they could do that, a lot of mistakes were made. But look, here's what I look at. President Obama has some people around him running Obamacare who've done a pretty bad job. Benghazi, horrible job. IRS, really bad job. I don't see any heads rolling in the White House.
What, are you reading my mind? I was about to go down this litany over here, Doc. But, yeah, Steve, when you compare Bridgegate, as it's being referred to Benghazi or IRS or NSA or Fort Hood or Boston bombings and Fast and Furious, Solyndra, we could go on and on. These are phony scandals, of course, but nobody's head seems to be rolling. In fact, you just retire or you get shuffled or moved away for a period of time until the dust settles, and then you're still in politics. Christie didn't do that.
Name one. We're talking about an ambassador who lost his life.
Right.
And I'm not blaming the president. What I'm saying is I didn't see the president hold a press conference for 2 hours answering every question about it.
Yeah.
All I saw was finger pointing. All I saw was ducking. All I saw with Obamacare, and listen, that's about incompetence, but I'll say this. The first thing they did, instead of taking responsibility, and I'm not trying to take attention away from Chris Christie, but I'll say, here's what I saw the president do. You know, the website's screwed up because there's too much demand. No, the website's screwed up because you screwed up. What I'm trying to say is I give Chris Christie credit with all the flaws here for saying I'm responsible. I got this wrong because I put people around me who lied to me, but I'm responsible for putting them there. It doesn't mean he's scot-free, and it clearly means that 2016 becomes a very different question for him right now. But compared to most politicians, including the president, stronger leader than most, but flawed deeply.
Speaking of 2016.
What difference at this point does it make?
Some people have already lined up the Christie and the Clinton battle here. Way too early, I think, but go ahead.
Way too early. You know, it's so funny. I've been doing a lot of, I was on CNN last night, doing today's show tomorrow. Believe me, I have no problem plugging my stuff.
Fair enough, sure.
But here's the thing. People are asking me about, you know, is Chris Christie dead? I'm thinking, let me think. Two words come to mind. Bill Clinton. I remember covering I'm old enough to remember covering Bill Clinton and offering analysis after Jennifer Flowers. You know, Bill Clinton wins that race and then wins again after that. I remember he was dead. He's finished. It'll never happen for him. He's over. Are you kidding me? The people that have been dead politically, who have been resurrected and wind up doing other things, 2016 might as well be 20 years away.
I agree. Totally. So, Steve, so Chris Christie now does what? He went and visited with the mayor yesterday. I guess that went pretty well.
The mayor of Fort Lee.
Yeah. So, and the mayor of Fort Lee, what's his name? Forgive me.
Oh, see, now you put me on the spot. I'm a Jersey guy who's not.
Oh, that's okay. Yeah, well, who knows? Hey, Chris Christie doesn't even remember meeting him.
Mike Vinkovich or something? Vinovich?
Yeah, that's all right.
Totally embarrassed.
Don't even worry about it. It's not important in the grand scheme of things.
He's me up tonight.
He's the well. You be prepared, I guess, for CNN, right? But, so here's the deal. This guy says I take Chris Christie at his word. Why doesn't it then just go away? What's pushing? What's driving
That's
this?
Not enough.
Yeah.
I mean, listen. What's interesting is the mayor's original reaction was, I don't want Chris Christie up here. And Christie pressed him. He said, nah, I'm coming anyway. And what's good, again, Christie pushes. And what happened was he went in the back door and they had a good conversation. He didn't go in the back door, but he didn't. The mayor was concerned that he'd wreak havoc in the town. Christie said, look, I don't want attention. I just want to have a conversation with you and tell you I screwed up. Give Christie credit for that, because the mayor turned around and said, you know what? We had a good meeting. So he's dealing with it head on, confronting it face to face. He said that he accepted it, but here's the problem. Now you have the U.S. Attorney for New Jersey, Paul Fishman, saying we're going to have an inquiry, not an investigation, but an inquiry as to whether there needs to be an investigation. There are legal matters being looked at. There is an investigation going on in the state legislature. So whether the mayor of Fort Lee says he's okay with this or not, that's nice, and that's good for the governor. But that's not the end of it.
Mark Sokolich is the guy's name, by the way, incidentally. So
thank you. Now it'll be burned into my psyche.
Listen, what? Okay, so for Chris Christie now, I mean, what happens? Just over the next couple of weeks here? Because this thing it's like front page news and everybody. It's mind-boggling, the machine, or does it just fade into the next news cycle or two or three or whatever?
In fact, today, the State Assembly, a Transportation Committee, which is the committee charged with the responsibility of investigating this case in the legislature, they just released a ton of new documents, emails. And what's happening right now as we speak is those of us who are covering this and trying to make sense of it are scouring those emails, trying to see. Here's the thing. As we look at those emails, they're looking for one thing. Is there anything in there that contradicts anything that Chris Christie said yesterday?
Right.
Because it's simple. I believe the governor. I take him at his word. The mayor of Fort Lee takes him at his word. But if there's one thing that's inconsistent with what the governor said, that's a big problem. And that's what the Democrats are looking for. That's what all of us are trying to find. Like, I respect the governor. I want to see him succeed because if he doesn't, it's going to be terrible for the state. But that's what everyone's looking for.
Sure. Yeah.
That's what it's about, these documents.
Yeah, we'll see. And finally, this lawsuit here, by the way, just filed today on the part of these New Jersey residents here. Some claiming, they were late for work or a panic attack, says one of the lawyers. How far does that go? Anywhere?
I don't know. And it's funny. I don't want to be cavalier about this and minimize it because, people suffered, and we have young children. If they were stuck in that traffic jam, I'd be peeved.
Yeah.
And by the way, if the governor's kids were in it, he'd be peeved too. So I don't want to minimize it. I get it. I understand it. And I'm not a legal expert. And I wish those families the best. I have no idea what happens legally.
Okay. All right. Well, we've got some legal experts, and in fact, our own on staff coming on at 3 o'clock to talk about that. Dr. Steve Adubato, check him out. You say tonight, CNN, tomorrow, Today Show? What? Boy,
tomorrow? Now, what happens if you're on at 7 o'clock in the morning, New York time, on the Today Show?
It's 5 a.m. here, so we got to get up early. Now, what was that mayor's name? I'm not going to do that to you. Sokolich. So, okay, there you are. Thank you, Steve.
Thanks, guys. Take care.